Hi, so I'm joined today with Chris Panteli from Linkifi, and today's question is about reactive PR versus expert quote link building. Which is better and why?
They're both different, and if you can, do both. But there's some differences and nuances between the two. So expert quote link building is inbound. So journalists are sourcing experts, and you can view those sources and then make your decisions on which journalist you're going to reply to, and therefore which publication you're potentially going to receive a link from. Oftentimes these are not going to be holistically on your brand and your message. Rather, you're going to enhance the point that the journalist is trying to make within their article. There's a great SEO play, and there are some amazing publications that you can win links from. And many of these publications are not receptive to PR campaigns. So it'll either be freelance writers or journalists, or the publication as a whole just isn't doing any form of PR inbound from you as a PR. So there's the only real way to win these links, the only way, is to answer expert commentary requests from the journalists or writers that are sourcing for their articles, which are going to be on these publications. PR campaigns, however, are outbound. So you need to come up with an idea or a story that's going to resonate with the journalists that write for the publications. And you need to build up a media list of journalists, and you need to come up with your story idea, and then you need to send your idea to the journalists. So kind of like cold outreach, but not, because the journalists are expecting these sorts of emails from PRs all day, every day. And also over a period of time, you'll start developing relationships with these journalists. So, you'll say, hey, Judy, it's me again. We've got another idea. We've got another story we're working on. And you can do really well that way because of building these relationships. And also you have much more control over the narrative with this sort of link building, because you're coming up with the idea on behalf of the client, and the client is going to be the feature of that, whether it's a data campaign or an expert commentary campaign or a newsjacking or a reactive piece. So it's the Euros is happening now. Maybe you've got a sports client and you want to talk about something to do with the Euros that's going to resonate with the journalists. So there's the nuances between the two. The reason I would suggest to do both. Oh, one more nuance. You'll find much more of a US slant on the expert quote side. So a lot more US publications, and you'll find much more of a UK slant on the digital PR side. The best thing to do is to do both, because you want as many different referring domains, and you want to be featured as an expert in as many different variations as possible. So a great way that we recommend as an agency is to start with expert quote commentary, start building those relationships with journalists, and then start getting an idea of what would work well from a PR campaign perspective. And then you can leverage the network that you've built on the expert quotes in order to try and deliver your PR campaigns.
So going through this and trying to simplify it slightly, right? A reactive PR campaign is where you reach out to journalists and reporters with a story or a trending topic, and then you're trying to pitch that idea to them as being, we think that you would like to write about this. And it's an outbound PR campaign, where an expert quote link building campaign is inbound, where the journalist and reporter is writing about this topic. Whether you get added to that article or don't get added to the article, they're going to write about this topic. And what they're wanting is some third-party experts to add and make valid what claims they're saying, delivering from an expert in whatever niche that you are in. And you're looking to place maybe a snippet of content, and then they're hopefully willing to backlink through back to your website. So obviously there's a big SEO value for both. What do you find is easier? Obviously you own Linkifi and you do both reactive PR, and you also do expert quote link building. From your point, is any of them easier than the other to get those placements in the articles or not? Are they both the same?
Great summary of the difference between the two, and great question as well. I would say it boils down to a handful of things, but it's really important. So first and foremost, I would say the niche of the website which you want to build links for. So you will have some niches are very, very PR friendly. So when you think about reactive campaigns or even data campaigns, you've got to think that you are going to the journalist and you are saying, hello, journalist, this story would be good for your readers, for your content quota. It's going to do well if you publish it. It's going to get traffic and your bosses are going to be happy. So in order to do that, you've got to come up with something interesting and creative. So there are certain niches which you can do these sorts of campaigns for day in, day out. So things like gardening, for example. Many publications are always writing about gardening, and then the seasonality as well. If you're in a period of time where, gardening is something which is interesting, that can be a perfect niche in order to do reactive campaigns for. If you are a particular expert within your niche as well, so a technology expert, you can do really well with things like if there's been a big data leak, you could run a reactive campaign on tips on how to safely use public Wi-Fi in an airport. So it really does depend first and foremost on the niche which the client is in. You can do well with both, but that's the first thing to think about. Secondly, you want to think about the client's mentality behind the link building. So if the client is very conscious about their brand and how they want to be portrayed and their flexibility as well, that can be a big guidance on which path that they would take. That's the discussion that we would have with the client first. So with the reactive pieces, reactive campaigns, you can have a lot more control on the narrative, and therefore the client can give, sign off on a campaign if they're happy with it. But the client also needs to be aware before that they engage and you take them on as a client, that we can't just say, hello, James Dooley from Searcheroo, let's say, I want to do a PR campaign. Well, we can't run a campaign saying James Dooley has got a link building agency called Searcheroo, because nobody is going to publish that. It's not interesting. So you've got to give us the freedom to come up with something interesting. And while we can control the narrative to an extent, we still have to come up with something interesting that's going to resonate with the journalists. The expert quote commentary, we can know the article that the journalist is working on, but we need the freedom to be able to pitch as you and come up with something interesting and leverage your expertise for the journalist to quote. So two very different paths with the same aim, which is links, but you've got to understand the nuances of the client and the results that they want to get and the flexibility that they're going to be happy to give you in the process.
Superb answers there, Chris. So, for me to summarize this, people ask me quite a lot, what is better, reactive PR or expert quote link building? Now, what I actually took from this the most from Chris is that there's certain websites that do not allow for PR campaigns. So if you try and pitch them with a PR campaign to write that on that article, those websites will not allow it. So if you want to have a nice big referring domain count kind of profile, which is what you do need for SEO to be ranking in the top of Google, then you want to be doing both, because there's different types of referring domains that you can get from expert quote link building versus reactive PR. So Chris, obviously you're doing this day in, day out at Linkifi.io. Where can people get hold of you? Can you do both reactive PR campaigns as well as expert quote link building campaigns? Where can people get hold of you and where are you hanging out at present online?
We do both. We do PR campaigns and we do expert quote link building. We love to have a chat with the client first if they want some guidance on which path to take. We would normally recommend to do both. Start with one. Once you've ran a number of PR campaigns and you've sort of got all of the links that you can get. Well, not can get, because you can always get new links and you can always get featured, and it's always good to get signal after signal after signal, new links. But we would recommend to have a chat with us, and you can find us at linkifi.io. Talk to me on X, Linkifi_, book a call through our Calendly, the widgets on the website. But yeah, as anyone would say, it's a holistic approach. Do as much as you can, but don't do more than you can, and pick one place to start and then move on. I think that's the best advice I can give.
Good advice. So anyone watching this, if you've got any comments, leave a comment in the comment section. What you feel could be better in reactive PR versus expert quote link building. Are you doing either of them as part of your SEO strategies? If not, I strongly recommend you start to look at doing both. But let us know in the comments what you think is the main difference and whether you feel one is better than the other.